It was amazing to me how fast things changed over those 2 or 3 weeks when it got to the United States.
It went from feeling like a manageable, far-away crisis to, oh no, this is right here.
The outbreak of the coronavirus disease, COVID-19, is challenging communities here at home and around the world. On March 14, the city of Waco took the difficult and I believe unprecedented step in our city of closing city facilities such as zoos, libraries, community centers, and others. Our faith-based community, businesses, and other organizations have voluntarily limited gatherings and in some cases have ceased operations, where we believe at this time we must take more aggressive steps to prevent the exposure of the virus to the citizens of Waco.
I really thought that it was going to be like MERS or like SARS and just kind of be a blip on the epidemiologic radar. This is a hard moment. Schools are closed, grocery store shelves are empty. For our patients, work and paychecks are uncertain.
No one is ever prepared for an unknown.
I mean, you saw stories and reports of what happened in Italy. It was concerning.
It was one of those things that you really didn't know anything about until things started happening.
The idea of issuing an emergency shelter-in-place order was something I had never considered.
This March and this summer was going to be one of our busiest years. Just all the events we were trying to put together, and to have that all canceled, that was just crazy.
At this time, the city of Waco is hereby declaring a local state of disaster and public health emergency. We strongly urge canceling, rescheduling, or not attending non-essential events with more than 10 persons present.
It was the week after spring break when school had gone to online classes, and then you started exhibiting symptoms.
I just knew I wasn't feeling good. I knew I had a headache. I was fatigued. She noticed one day that I was having a harder time catching my breath and breathing properly.
So he goes to the hospital. I'm still very sick at home, and I can't have contact with anyone.
It wasn't getting any better for me. In fact, I was having a harder time breathing. I just remember laying down and listening to worship music and trying to focus on mine. I just need to rest. It was tough for me to breathe. And at that point is when they decided to ventilate me. For me, the next several weeks of being sedated and being on the ventilator was like one long, vivid dream.
With COVID, there isn't a treatment plan. There isn't something that's tried and true that works, and this is gonna be okay. Every day was, we're gonna try this and we're gonna see if it's gonna help. Ultimately, David's body got the rest it needed and his lungs got the rest they needed, his immune system started fighting, and he started getting gradually better. But he was in the hospital a total of 30 days.
You know, food is something much more than just a physical thing you need to eat. To us, it's basically how we share culture. And then that's just gone into doing events and to doing all kinds of other things, because I'm also one of the founders of the East Side Market, which is a local market that's dedicated to art, music, just Waco culture in general. And so everything revolves around this gathering of people. And I guess that's why this whole virus thing just threw us for a spin.
If we don't have people coming in, we're nothing. We're not a big franchise. We can't shut down for weeks, months, and be okay. It's very scary because, without the support of the community, we're nothing.
We had to figure out how to do worship online really, really fast. We are a traditional church in a Gothic structure with not a screen in sight in our church. We had to adapt faster than I think we ever have.
There are people who have been inconvenienced But then there are others who are devastated.
Early on in the process, after the emergency was declared, we started to get calls from a variety of the sectors of the community, whether it be a nonprofit organization asking what the community's plan was for our homeless population, or what the community's plan was for small business, or what the community's plan was for restaurants. We needed a proactive and strategic approach to business, to health, and to the education and social service sectors of our community.
We have a lot of great leaders in our community, and so we needed each and every one of those leaders. We needed everyone to be a part of what was happening.
So the working groups came about because there was all this work being done all around the community by great nonprofits and our chambers of commerce and others, but it wasn't really being connected and it wasn't collaborative.
Mayor Deaver said, I need you all, and he identified us individually, to co-chair with a engaged community leader.
There were going to be limitations to what the city could do, and that we were going to need community members as well as city government in order to address it.
We are the largest MSA in the state without a publicly funded hospital district. We have 2 private health systems and then the Family Health Center, which is federally funded as well. There's no local hospital apparatus supported by local taxes.
Right at the beginning, there were very, very few tests, and so we were using those tests very selectively on only people who had health vulnerabilities or who had known close contact with others who had the virus.
Just working to coordinate planning, equipment provision, communications amongst everybody.
We've really worked hard at getting in front of our patients and getting in front of the larger community to try to give them really good concrete advice that is most evidence-based and up-to-date in order to help everyone to know what to do.
People were getting all sorts of things from social media, that this was an invented virus, it didn't really exist. There were things about that this was something that people had come up with in order to get rid of certain populations. If anybody needs to filter through what information there is and make recommendations, that responsibility should be on those of us who dedicate our lives to it.
I felt like the Public Health District did a great job of corralling resources and helping with the Emergency Operations Center and standing up the protocols necessary to kind of combat something that nobody knew what was going to be next.
Right off the bat, there was a lot of confusion about information that was being shared. We just didn't know, we still don't know a lot, but at the very beginning, we knew even less.
The goal was just to try to get as much information, to hear what people were concerned about COVID-19 and address those issues in a way with truth.
It was really important for our group to determine factual information and what we could give to people to help keep them as safe as possible.
There's just so much ways to communicate today, whether it be television, radio, online, social media, etc., and word of mouth. There was also a lot of myth and maybe a lot of not factual information about COVID-19. So our biggest obstacle at the beginning was trying to overcome those myths and really get out to the masses what the true evidence of COVID-19 was and the impact that it was having in our community.
We pulled together this group, this great work group that has dozens of people in it from all different sectors, all are communications professionals, and we've really used them to push out information. We set up a newsletter, a COVID-19 community newsletter. It now reaches about 35,000 people twice a week. So it's designed to be really short. It's in English and in Spanish, which is very important.
It was very important to get the information out to our Spanish-speaking community. And so we wanted to do everything that we did in English, we did in Spanish. We got on the local radio and television, Spanish media to make sure that we are targeting that specific demographic.
And once the recommendations came out about face coverings, we started this very grassroots campaign called Waco Safe. And it really started out with encouraging people to wear masks and face coverings. And we had people take photos of themselves, share it on Facebook and Instagram, and tag Waco Safe. And we reached out to influencers through our big work group. Went from face coverings to really businesses. Businesses took the Waco Safe pledge to kind of go above and beyond to keep their patrons safe. And now we're looking at a mental health piece of it. So it's really become this kind of encompassing campaign to help Wacoans get through the pandemic.
Social services and education, I mean, that just covers so many areas. Every single service agency in town was having to adopt and adapt to new processes.
For the first 2, 3, 4 weeks was constant reaching out to different folks and understand where they're, what they're doing, what's going on in that area, how can we help, and how do we kind of create the systems and communication, back to the mayor, back to the city, but create, solutions for people.
So our working group was not about meetings. It was about teams of people digging down, finding information, solving a problem in 24 hours. It was action every day.
We have a lot of the underserved populations, a lot of our vulnerable. We had to talk about how COVID-19 would affect those groups, the homeless, our elderly, our children.
I know that we had some parents that had to work 2 jobs. They were essential workers. And one thing that I am grateful that our district provides the free meals. And so at our campus, I made sure that first week we were calling parents, texting parents, emailing parents, letting parents know that the district was providing the free meals.
We began to work with churches, and we identified locations across the community where we could serve meals to make sure we had the best coverage for our families.
Some butter and jelly sandwich.
Our schools really tried to keep a positive mindset for our students and families and to engage them in some creative ways.
Brandon Clausen, one of our business teachers, he emailed me one night and he said, hey, I got this idea of when we do cap and gown pickup, why don't we make it like a celebration? Maybe possible, like have teachers have signs, a DJ. And so he had all these different ideas, and it was a surprise for the students. They knew they were coming to get the cap and gown, but they didn't know they was going to have music blasting and all the teachers were going to be there. And then after that, the students and parents decided to organize a parade for the students. Parents and students organized it. The teachers were around, and they had lines formed around the school.
I was in awe of the things that they were doing, from having parades throughout neighborhoods to say hello to their students, contests on social media.
Hey y'all, Chef Oz, back in the kitchen. Today I thought it'd be kind of fun to show you a little tomato
We started looking for ways to still reach the kids.
requests to do chicken and dumplings.
I started making some cooking videos, got them posted up on Facebook, at least give them some kind of reminder of, the kind of things that we had been doing.
Everyone has pulled together for the students and for the greater community.
The other thing that I'm incredibly proud of are our faith leaders. Some of them had never had online services before.
There was no way that it would not affect the church. It's been hard for those of us in the church because, church is always a gathering. This past Sunday, we did our first drive-in worship. I mean, once you've been in the black church and there's the engagement between pulpit and pew, you didn't have the audible voice of participation, but you had the call.
Work out, all right.
Another thing that the faith community did really well was really rise up and begin to serve the people around them.
As a large church, we have a lot of volunteers, so they were able to go to Shepherd's Heart and pass out thousands of bags of groceries. We were able to partner with WISD to provide lunch for that area until the mobile sites were, and then give volunteers to help with that. And it's been an amazing partnership to utilize the volunteer base that a church has, the financial resources when we collectively can put it together, and then the partnerships we have with other churches.
The church was built for moments like this, It has responded to moments like this from the very beginning. Persecution, plagues, warfare, famine. This is what we do. This is what we are here for.
Small businesses are what makes Waco great. You know, it's the diversity that we have throughout all of our businesses, through all these business owners. That's what, you know, people love about Waco. That's what gives it its spirit.
The businesses in our community really, in the aggregate, make up what we call our community. It could not have been a worse set of circumstances for small businesses than to just, by law, be ordered to shut down, on top of people feeling unsafe to go out and patron.
You know, we don't operate on huge margins, and we've never had just like stores of money sitting aside. So we knew that the amount of time we had to last was going to be short.
They don't have customers, they don't have cash flow, they still have financial obligations, and thus you have an economic crisis on your hands.
The Syntax Chambers did a survey, and the survey showed us that we had roughly 30 to 90 days out before business would actually start closing.
When we initially started, it was really taking those members' concerns and expressing them to leadership in the community.
We were focused on one goal, and that one goal was to make sure that small businesses survive.
One of the great things that came out of it was the Small Business Relief Fund that the city stood up. And that was directly from questions that we had collaboratively asked of our community.
The city had some funds left from a federal block grant that they could use for a particular type of business assistance. And then the county and the city together tapped into what our what's called Waco McLennan County Economic Development Corporation. We've got funds to try to attract businesses, but we agreed that we need to take some of those funds, kind of get inwardly focused on our businesses and try to be able to use those funds to help in that regard as well.
The very earliest work of our working team was looking at the importance of getting the financial tools at the federal level, and when we found gaps at the local level, created some resources to get liquidity to businesses so they would have financial tools to weather that time frame.
So far, we've funded, I think, a little over $300,000 in loans, and we still have several $100,000 left.
I'm incredibly proud that city staff found a way that if our businesses who weren't getting PPP and the EIDL loans, that we stepped up and created a grant for small businesses.
I have a local food truck here, so I've been in business about 2.5, almost 3 years now. I went ahead and applied, and the city looked at everything over and came right on time, so I was able to get my truck repaired, get all that equipment and all my supplies and everything through that program.
I think that's one of the good things that come out of situations like these. You know, you start to see the people who really truly care and really, you know, will respond to these, you know, times and just try to create something to help out their fellow people.
I think we've seen great resilience from particularly the restaurants. I'll pick those guys out on how they do their curbside service, how they do their delivery service, and how that's accounting for a big part of their, you know, in some cases all of their revenue right now, and how they plan to use that skill set and that service even after we fully recover.
We moved all our orders to mostly to-go orders online, which we did not have that option before. The city of Waco, I really have a lot of respect for the hard calls that they made, especially with having a shelter-in-place order, even though it was hard business-wise, but we were thankful that the leadership was willing to take the measures necessary, right, to keep the community safe.
So we did these weekly family meals. We kind of established a rhythm. We just had to figure out the perfect thing we could do to feed people, just like make them feel whole.
People started putting out about supporting small businesses, and people really supported small. That week was great for our business because I don't know how it started, but they just started talking about how small businesses, you know, needed the community. We've received amazing support from everybody around us.
the big, like, arms around you, loving on you, showing up every day, putting the orders in, the fact that people really loved us enough to show up and want to continue to give to us was incredible.
What we learned throughout the crisis is the disparities and the gaps we have in especially our minority communities. And now going forward, we feel that we have a solution in the making to make sure that these businesses are no longer underrepresented.
Having leadership that's able to come together and listen to one another and listen to many different voices has been something that, you know, makes me proud to be part of this community.
You know, no one would want this to happen, but man, if you can look around, it's incredible how people are, you know, coming together and making things work.
It has unified our city in a lot of ways. I see people coming together and the collaboration that we saw, that continues to pay benefits, and I do think we will come out of this thing stronger in the end.
In this time, you're seeing the true personality of Waco. You're seeing Waco that wants to work together, that wants to love on each other. This pandemic is definitely one that has made us kind of hopeless at times. But when you see the true personality of this city, the city that I love, it gives you a lot of hope.
In a time of high stress and a time of tragedy, there are shearing forces that threaten a community's unity. And one of the things that really stands out about Waco-McLennan County is that we recognize that our success is going to be in ultimately our neighborly love.
There's something pretty special here in the greater Waco area, and there's something very special about the Waco community.
People want to work together and want to support each other, and that is, I think, a defensible competitive advantage that Waco has over other cities.
I grew up in a big city in Southern California. I have to say that, like, going through an experience like this, I would not have had the support system I had here, only being here 2.5 years in California. Like, the sense of community that we have here and people who were so gracious and giving and generous.
We took care of one another because I couldn't go to work, or I couldn't go and do the things that keep food on my table.
We are very unified. To see churches really come together and call each other and see what kind of resources we had, what kind of resources we need, and distribute that and partner. Collectively, we can be a great force for the community to fill in those gaps.
I have been so proud watching the creativity of leaders all over Waco respond to this, figuring out how to mobilize teachers so that students could learn online, figuring out how to make masks to provide those to healthcare professionals on the front lines, seeing the creativity with how we could have graduation ceremonies for seniors.
We can't build a great community on our own. We need the efforts of each and every one, from every race, from every profession, from every sector.
I've just been really proud of our community. I've been proud of the way that they took responsibility for reacting to the COVID virus in the ways that we were asking them to do. I'm proud of our businesses. It's been hard, and it's been sacrifice, real sacrifice.
The fabric of this community is grit and resilience and an ability to maintain hope even in the midst of a dark night.
It's just knowing that everyone's in that same boat, and knowing that we all went through this together, that we're all trying to come out of this better than how we went into it.
I still feel so supported, not only from the community, but also from our staff.
I'm really proud of our staff, and from custodians to our facilities workers, to our curriculum and instruction department, and to our classroom teachers. Everyone has contributed.
I just want to thank all of our leaders, from top to bottom. Words can't express, the things that they did in order to make sure that our city, our county was safe.
We have each other as a community. We have God. We're going to get through this. This isn't a permanent thing.
Waco is strong. Waco is resilient. Waco is like no other place in this country, and I know together we will overcome. The future for Waco is bright. The future for Waco is hopeful.
Everyone came together at a time where
There was so much uncertainty. We just came together and did what we needed to do.
I believe with all of my heart that Waco's greatest days are ahead. And I know that we've had a hard road, and I know that we're going to continue to have hard days. But I believe that because of this community and because of the partnerships and collaboration in this town, our greatest days are still ahead, and we have a bright future before us.